Hi everyone, my name is Maor and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the ugly truth behind modern medicine. Modern medicine has been regarded as an incredible human achievement. For the first time in millennia, hygiene, antibiotics, reduced infant mortality, and proper medical care has successfully increased our lifespans to a Western average of 80 years compared to 35 just 2 centuries ago. But with those things in mind, how come so many people around the world are so sick? And how come we haven't completely cured a disease in over 60 years? Let's find out. So, is modern medicine, and more specifically pharmaceutical medicine, a new invention? Well, not at all. In fact, medicine in pill form has been around for thousands of years. It was a means of ingesting medication more efficiently. The Romans used to call pills pilula and made their pills from honey or dough, but it was very difficult to swallow. During medieval times, pills were often coated with substances that will make them slip through your gut like silver or gold, which of course gave little to no effect since the metals aren't digestible. But it all changed with William Brockdom, a British inventor who patented a machine that would allow the compression of medical admixtures to be compressed into a tablet. The compression allowed for smaller, easier to consume shapes to be created, making pills the most popular form of medicine in the modern world. Unfortunately, the pharmaceutical industry has been completely recreated by the end of the 19th century with a select few who are responsible behind the ordeal. Those people were John D. Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan. You probably are familiar with these names, and what I'm about to tell you might shock you a little bit. You can look into it yourself. All the information can be found online. The two businessmen owed their fortunes to oil and banking. And with profit increased their primary concern, Rockefeller turned to the pharmaceutical industry. The Rockefeller empire began developing medicine based on chemical byproducts from the oil industry. As a matter of fact, the first pain and fever killers were made from tar. In 1911, the US Supreme Court had found Rockefeller's oil business guilty of corruption and market manipulation, and an order to disband the corporation was actually issued. This wasn't a concern for Rockefeller really, since he fractured his company into 37 smaller companies and quickly became, once again, the majority shareholder of those smaller companies, thus ensuring his decisive power in terms of company decision-making and strategy. With those things in mind, the foundation was already in place for the medical business model to emerge. With the American Doctors Association in the hands of George Simmons and Morris Fishbane, two gentlemen loyal to Rockefeller's empire, America's medical industry was effectively monopolized. With the American Doctor Association in Rockefeller's hands, a section of medical investigations was established in the goal of ensuring that no doctor abides by his personal mythology. Instead, medical practices and pharmaceuticals were to be approved only by the FDA and only those allowed. Anything that cannot be patented was branded weird or augmented science, with the doctors blacklisted forever and sometimes even prosecuted. This newfound partnership between corporate entities and the medical industry forever changed our medical landscapes and the way we view medicine as a whole. Next in line was medical education. By introducing something called efficient philanthropy, the Rockefeller Foundation would fund the research and the education for any medical school that will comply with their patents and their practical standards. By the 1920s, a new wave of rapidly funded hospitals and care centers were founded, with the condition of practice under synthetic drugs patented and owned by the foundation, slowly eliminating any alternative medical approaches to sickness, which back in the day were quite a lot. Lastly, the perception of the masses needed to change as well. This was achieved by planting key people or key personnel loyal to Rockefeller's empire into every federal agency in charge of public health. Simultaneously, additional people like Arthur H. Sulzberg, editor of the New York Times, were convinced to embrace the "don't post before review" policy, known today as censorship, meaning everything that has to do with medicine has to be edited, censored, and approved only by the standards dictated to the publisher. Later on, entire newspapers and magazine companies were majority controlled by J.P. Morgan. When Morgan passed, Time magazine was acquired by the Rockefellers together with Fortune magazine. The three were put into a single 14-story building in the Rockefeller Center called Time and Life. By the end of this relatively long process, the Rockefellers and their fellow banking associates have taken over completely the pharmaceutical industry, including its education, its distribution, and its public opinion. They turned the health industry into a $700 billion industry. Why? Because there's no profit in cures. Having a patient take medication for 20 years to regulate their sickness was the perfect way to ensure steady profits, while at the same time utilizing chemical byproducts from the oil industry and profiting off the same stuff twice. All in all, it was a perfect plan. Fracture the corporation, become majority shareholder in every fragment, take over the American Medical Association, the education, and the media. Before you know it, you own medicine. As the old saying goes, one cannot amass a fortune without deceit. The funny thing is that until today, we still practice these unconventional methods of medication. Our grandparents still know how to treat various ailments with natural remedies that are branded today as pseudoscience. So the knowledge isn't lost completely, but it's no longer mainstream knowledge. With that being said, I do wish to clarify that Maor pharmaceuticals do work to an extent, but the point of this video was to shed some light on the pharmaceuticals' dark past and that they do not produce cures, but rather permanent clients, because they have shareholders and they act just like any other company that wishes to maximize their revenue. That's it for today, my friends. My name is Ray. Thank you very much for watching my video. Please leave a comment, share, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I will see you in my next video.